Okay, friends, family, how's everybody doing? We're back for another episode of, not another episode, another masterclass about COPET Mondays masterclass number 4. Today's topic we're talking about, it's going to be like a two-part topic. First topic is about how I overcame perfection and instead focused more on interpretation. Let me say that again. Today's topic is about how I overcame perfection and focused more on interpretation as a classical pianist. And then the other one is, let me look at my school community right now to see the announcements to see. Okay, and the other one is I'm showing you live how to compose powerful music. Okay, now if you can hear me, put a 1 in the comment section. See, skip tutorial. Now I just want to see who's online, so I'm logged in on here. So, say this again. Today's topic is about how I overcame perfection as a classical pianist and instead focused more on interpretation. And then the second part of the talk will be about how to compose powerful music. So first and foremost, let's start off with the first topic. Let's address the elephant in the room. All of us as pianists, as classical pianists, we want to play everything to the letter, right? It's a great and lofty goal, and it's important to be able to do that, right? But not to the point where you are so focused on perfection that you're losing sight of what's really important, and that's your interpretation. Not so much focusing so much on perfection that you get to the point where you are so unhealthily obsessed with the outcome, right? So at one point in time, my number one, I've been playing classical piano for 23 years. November makes 24 years, I should say. And one of the things that happened with me was that I used to focus, every single note has to be correct, right? And then when I wouldn't get the notes correct, I'm beating myself up. I'm being super hard on myself, right? So much to the point that when I would do performances, the performances weren't the best either because I was so focused and putting so much pressure on myself to play perfectly to please my student, to please not my students, to please my teacher, so that people in the audience wouldn't laugh at me. All of these things that matter but don't really matter, you know? And I used to have terrible performances that I was so focused on perfection. I would do so much work in the practice room, 10,000 hours upon 10,000 hours. I would feel like I got it, but then when it came to the stage, I'm making mistakes. I'm drawing blanks. And you can imagine, I'm pretty sure you as pianists have experienced this same thing that I'm talking about. So what was the solution? I learned this a little bit older after I stopped taking lessons, actually at 25 years old, that is more so about the interpretational side of the music that matters. When you focus on the interpretational side of the music, you tend to now, when it's time to perform, not make as many mistakes. It's when you put that unnecessary pressure on yourself to play perfectly, that's when all the mistakes happen. Instead of just feeling and being present in the moment. You know, it's already nerve-wracking to get on stage and worry about what this person's going to think, whether or not you're going to get through this performance perfectly, right? It's already nerve-wracking that you already have pressure on yourself. Why are you putting extra pressure on yourself to make sure that you hit everything perfectly? It's not possible. And I'll tell you why it's not possible, because none of us are or were alive when these composers made this music. And understand this, even though there's recordings of, let's say, Rachmaninoff, and I've said this in previous lives before, none of us in today's time plays his music exactly how he played it. No, it's all interpretation. When you start to realize and understand that it's more about interpretation, then you start to take the pressure off of yourself of trying to play perfectly, of trying to get other people's approval. Because at the end of the day, most people are, when you have your interpretation of music, most people are not going to agree with it. There might be even more people who do agree with it, or whatever the case may be. It's not up for you to decide how the outcome of how people are going to read music, right? It's not your job. It's not your job to worry about that. It's not your job to worry about the interpretation of how people are going to perceive your interpretation. So you have to take the pressure off of yourself to play perfectly and focus on the interpretational side of the music without, like I said before, without worrying about the outcome of how people are going to think. And the way you do this is by using my COPET method, the composer oriented piano expression and technique method. The students that I coach in my coaching programs and in my own school community, I I drive home the importance of storytelling. Whether it's something that you compose, whether it's something that you're playing, every single thing in this world of music has some type of story. If I showed you my whole entire book, not my book, if I showed you the whole entire set of etudes by Franz Liszt that I'm working on right now, on every single piece, I'm writing some type of COPET prompt. And the prompt is basically me giving a short synopsis, a really short synopsis of how this piece makes me feel. And some of the pieces that's in the book, the Transcendental Etudes, I'm writing down certain sections. Okay, this section reminds me of of me when I was younger and I was running through playing tag and having fun and people chasing me. I'm chasing people, just being a kid having fun. Another section of a piece might have, well, this section right here reminds me of a sunset, sunrise, sunset, and so forth and so on. Right? I'm putting my own feelings and my own emotions, my own storytelling that lives in here and here out onto the music. You see how I'm writing? You see, I'm fake writing right now. I'm writing out these different feelings and emotions in the music so that when it comes down to now playing this music, okay, I already have the idea of how I want this section to go. The way that I look at music, the way I interpret music, right, is every single piece has a bunch of mini stories that coexist to make a bigger story. When you start looking at your music like that, or your composition like that, you start to realize that the music and stuff that you're working on becomes much easier to learn, and you have a faster, more fun process of learning music. So many times I can attest to this, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this. You start off pieces, right? You start off, you have all this hey Candace, how you doing? You have all of this drive to want to play this piece, and then you hit a road, like a bump in the road, and for some reason you don't know how to maneuver around this section. So what most people do, what I've done plenty of times, oh, let's skip this piece, let's go on to something else. And then you run into another road bump. Oh, skip this piece. You run into another mountain from piece to piece. Next thing you know, you have all of these pieces that you have worked on, but you haven't mastered yet. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, to prevent that from happening, when you're working on specific music, let's say Liszt etude or whatever, Chopin etude, break your music down into sections and attach some type of story to this section. Because what you begin to realize is that what I coach my students when they're breaking down sheet music, all of these parts are interlocking with one another. Let me be even more specific. Most music is broken down into measures of 4, 8, 16, 32, right? 32 measures or 32 bars. Most times in classical music, the first 4 bars of a piece will be the main idea. The next 4 bars is the answer to the idea, right? Then the next 4 bars, now we're talking about measures 9 through 12, might be a recap of what you played in the first 4 bars. And then measures 13 to 16 can either transition into music, new music, or it can close that whole entire first 16 bars. If you start to look at your music like that and put storytelling to, let's say in this example, every 4 bars connects all together to make your first 16 bars of the piece, if you can attach some type of storytelling to it, you're going to learn your music faster. You're going to interpret it even faster. As opposed to, okay, I have this whole entire 16 bar piece. Let's say 16 bars. I'm going to learn from measure 1 to 16. And then you're going to keep going over and over and over again until you hit that road, that bump in the road where it's either it's too challenging, a section might be too challenging, or you're just tired of the fact that you're not learning your music fast enough. And this is why I implore my students that I coach, focus more on the interpretational side of the pieces that you're working on. When it comes to composition, I know firsthand how challenging it can be when you're working on a piece or your own composition, and then it feels like, damn, I don't know what comes next. Because I'm currently going through that now. Well, was going through that now. Was going through that before, right? But then when I decided to use my own COPET method and put it into the music that I'm making and creating, oh, the ideas start flowing because I have a story that I'm attached to, right? As opposed to not having a story and I'm just all over the place. So it's very important. Interpretation is the most important thing over perfection. Because when you focus on perfection and focus on perfection and focus on perfection, nothing will ever be good enough for you. You could play a piece perfectly from beginning to end and get on stage and play it perfectly from beginning to end. But it sounds empty and sounds hollow. So then now your performances start to become intangible, if that's the correct word, right? Intangible, and you start to feel like you're searching for something more that you can't put your hand on, and that's because you're not focused on the interpretational side of music. The interpretational side of music that goes a long way, right? So, what I say a lot to say this, I I remember, I used to, man, we put so much pressure on ourselves as musicians, as classical pianists, especially in the classical world. It's like, yo, God forbid if we decide to make a mistake or change up how we are looking at this music or make a mistake. Because then the classical purists who think that they're Mozart themselves or Bach or whoever, they want to say a whole bunch of stuff when chances are they can't even play what you play or do what you can do. And if they can do it, they shouldn't lead with destructive criticism. No, you're playing this wrong. Why are you playing like that? Or you're showing too much emotion. Oh, isn't it about emotion, right? They're so focused on being this perfect model classical pianist and not coloring outside the lines. Because God forbid if you color outside the lines and other people are going to feel some type of way. We're getting rid of that. Focus more on the interpretational side of music, and all the freedom that you're chasing is going to come to you because you're not falling under strict guidelines as a classical pianist, as a composer, or somebody who is learning repertoire. So I wanted to say all that. Now, when it comes to creating emotional, powerful music, how do we create emotional, powerful music? That comes down to one thing and one thing only. When I coach my students, I have them tap into their inner thoughts, their inner emotions, of course, within reason. Because I don't expect everybody to tap into the most personal, deepest things that they're going through here and here. No, that's not, you know, you may feel comfortable, you may not. But if you could tap into your experiences and you're able to tell a story behind it, then you're going to create the emotional, powerful music that everybody's looking to create. I'll give you a perfect example. Um, let me think. What piece? Because I have a lot of different pieces that I've created. Okay, so perfect example. I created a version of Liszt's Overture to Tannhauser. I played that back in 2022. Number one, I was so enamored with the piece because it's such a beautiful, powerful piece. Number one, on its own, and the fact that Liszt transcribed it from a full-fledged opera and condensed it to piano is just beyond amazing. The thing, though, is as I was starting to compose my own piece, I started thinking of the music and who I could dedicate this to. And I ended up dedicating it to my grandmother, who passed away earlier this year, and my mommy, right, my mom. So the whole entire piece took me. Talking about. I hand wrote everything. I'm just giving y'all a lot of like context and things like that. So bear with me. I wrote down everything. It took me a good 8 months to handwrite everything. It came to 70 pages, whatever. So by 2020-ish or end of 2020, going into 2021, I officially wrote everything out. And I was like, now I have to perform this. So over the next year, I learned the piece and I ended up performing it. Now, when it comes to creating emotional, powerful music, now this is what we're talking about. This piece right here that I created, the overture to Tannhauser, my transcription of Liszt transcription. When I played it, I'll never forget when when I performed it. There were so many times I had to hold back tears because of the fact that as I'm playing it, I'm telling my own story of how I feel about my mom and about how I feel about my grandmother. And I'll never forget, it came down to the end of the piece, boom, 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 right? Boom, boom, all these octaves and things like that. And as soon as I hit the final chord, I put my head down on the piano like this, and I almost broke. I almost broke because there was so much emotions, so many stories, thinking of my grandmother, of how much I love her, and my mom, that all of it came out in that final moment, right? And so that's a process of creating emotional, powerful music. Let me tell you another time. This wasn't necessarily something I composed. I remember, matter of fact, what I'm going to tell you can also be attributed to the music that you're playing. I'm telling you two stories. The first story is this. The first time that I heard Franz Liszt Mazeppa, I was about roughly 23 years old, right? And if you know how Mazeppa starts, you have those runs and stuff like that. It just hit me right away, like what is happening, right? And it's a really powerful, really challenging piece. But then there's this middle section that's very beautiful and lyrical. And I remember listening to that section, I just started tearing up. I started crying because I was like, how could somebody compose something so beautiful in the midst of a storm? When you think about the Mazeppa, right? That middle part really touched my heart, and that's when I knew, like, yeah, I have to play this piece because if I had to attest a story to it, well, I just said it. Just imagine you're in battle with somebody and you're going tooth to nail, and then you see the person that you love and they're walking towards you and they're comforting you and giving you words of encouragement. Just imagine how you would feel. You're going to start tearing up. You might feel emotional because then now simultaneously you got to remember that you have to go back to war because that's just the middle section of the piece. You still have all of this other music to play. You have to go back to war. The perfect way to describe this is, what's another analogy I can give you? Because this is based off of, oh, okay. Another one now. I'm so excited. Another thing I can tell you is this. Me learning the Franz Liszt Transcendental Etudes right now, specifically Mazeppa. During World War One, when it was the rush, who was it? I think it was Russia and Germany. I think it was those two countries. They end up having a ceasefire on Christmas Day, right? Because they wanted to, like, we're gonna celebrate Christmas. Where you're excited too. Thank you. We're gonna celebrate Christmas. We're gonna use that day, Christmas, as a day for ceasefire. They exchange gifts. They exchange, food and different things like that, right? And then they have to understand that come the 26th, oh, it's back to war. So when I look at the Mazeppa, it starts off, the way I interpret it is war. When it comes to that middle section, it could be symbolized as Christmas Day. And then now you have the rest of the war to win. If you go even deeper than that, imagine I put myself in those shoes where it's like, yo, I'm really out here fighting the enemy, right? My commander says, yo, for the 24th and the 25th, we are doing a ceasefire. We're going to celebrate with them. All right, cool. We're celebrating. But in the back of my mind, as although I'm happy for this moment, in the back of my mind, I'm panicking because the 26th, I have to go back into war and fight this person that I'm breaking bread with. Can you imagine the psychological trauma that all those soldiers went through? Right? So it's the same thing with me learning the Mazeppa. I'm putting that same type of concept into this music so I can create my own emotional, powerful interpretation of the Mazeppa. right? And this is all done through what? My COPET method, done through storytelling. You know what I'm saying? Last time I'll say this, because I don't want to be the dead horse to death. Your storytelling, which is also your artistry, needs to overshadow your technique. Your technique is the foundation, yes, but at the same time, it needs to be interlocked with your artistry, because you never just want to just be seen or listened to as just as a piano player. You want to be the pianist. I've explained this before on live. Real quick, the piano player, he or she have all the abilities in the world to play whatever they want. But when you listen to them, there's no story. It sounds empty and hollow. The pianist, he or she has the same brilliant abilities technique-wise. But when you listen to them, you can understand what they're trying to tell you. Even if you don't understand it verbally, you understand it mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's what it's all about with the COPET method. And that's what it's all about when I coach my students. So that was today's masterclass. We talked about, just a recap, how I overcame perfection and focused more on interpretation, as well as how do you compose emotional, powerful music. All of this is built through storytelling. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please put them in now. Definitely not a problem. I have my iPad here so I can see whatever questions y'all have for me and whatnot. If you have any questions, also, if you haven't yet, book a call. And if you're in my school community, book a call. How are you feeling with your process now? I got you in a second. Book a call with me. It's mandatory. If you don't book a call, you'll be removed from the community. The call is basically to assess where you're at, so I can see what I can do to help you, rather than just enter this community and just stay silent, because that's not cool. Okay, so how am I feeling with my process now? Are you asking regarding learning the etudes, the list etudes? How do I feel about that process? Is that the question that you're asking? Yes. Okay. So the process, it's coming along pretty well. I'm thinking about learning the first six and then attaching some type of um, concerto to go with it, as opposed to learning all 12 and performing all 12. It can be really challenging, number one, to do. Not to say I can't do it, but when you do these type of performances, you got to think about your audience, right? And it's like, that's why I want to do the first six and attach some type of other type of music, quote unquote, with it. Then another concert, do the next six, the last six, and attach another type of music to it, to give your audience variety. Because I can understand, it can, especially if you don't know the music that I'm performing, it can get really mundane, and I don't want to say, it may not be as entertaining. But if you break, you perform the first six and then put some type of other music with it, it will go over well. So the process is coming along slowly, though. To answer even deeper, it's a challenge, especially the fourth one, the fifth one, the Mazeppa, the Fiofole, and also the second one is going to be challenging. The first, the third, and the sixth, that's going to be easy work to do. The first, the third, and the sixth is easy to do. But if I could show you my music right now, you'll be like so elated, because it's like I'm putting a lot of different COPET prompts and stuff like that. I'm so stoked to be able to use my own method to help me learn the transcendental etudes. But yes, good question. What other questions do you have? Do y'all have for your boy? Yes, I would definitely. I'm gonna definitely. I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put a couple pictures, a couple posts in the school community, so you can see what it look like. Yes. Any other questions? Uh, for those who don't know, tell them about your beautiful journal. Give me a second. I gotta go get it. I should have had it here. Let me just say. Okay, we are back. My beautiful journal. So this journal right here is called, let me bring it closer. Bring it closer. It's called My Daily Piano Practice Journal. I made this last year, like November-ish time. And basically, it's a journal that helps pianists really keep track of their practice, helps them to keep track of their own goals outside of playing piano. We have like a mock practice schedule here. Let's see if you can see it. Bring it down. Right. It's basically like morning, afternoon, evening, different things, warm up, things like that, meditations, visualizations, of a positive practice session. And then also there's a section that says tell a story. This part right here is very important because everything I've been talking about, storytelling. If you could tell a story about the pieces that you're playing, you've already done at least 80% of the job of learning this music. Let's say 90% of the job. Because when you're able to tell a story about what you're playing, you begin to vividly see how you're going to shape the melodic lines, which makes things easier for you from a technical side. Right? So that's why I have a section called Tell a Story. We have another section called Personal Goals and Motivation, right? It's a lot of different prompts that you're going to see in this video, in this journal, to help you tap into here and here. Because if this is not strong and your heart and your emotional state is not strong, it doesn't matter how talented you are as a pianist, you will never be able to really reach the dreams and goals that you're striving to reach, because the mental and the spiritual is not on point. So that's why we have a section called How Was My Day? It's basically recapping your whole day. Go in depth. This is your time to be vulnerable, right? And then we have another section that says, how was my week? How was the month? All of these different things helps you become a better musician, right? Because playing piano is more of a mental thing than it is a physical thing, right? So that's basically my journal right now. You know, oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And in the back, we got actual blank sheet music. Oh, sorry. We actually have blank sheet music for anybody who just wants to jot down quick notes or whatever the case may be. You hear a melody in your head and you just want to jot it down quickly. So it's my daily piano practice journal. You can get this on my website. And also, what comes with this journal is a whole entire list of different things like um, emotional color wheel, emotional color and emotional wheel for like the different scales, because every single scale has a different color and emotion tied to it. You get a lot of different prompts and a lot of different information, PDF files that comes with this journal. So head to my website to get it. And I'm also going to put a link to this in the school community as well. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So if anybody else have any questions, anybody else have any other questions? If not, I'm a skedaddle. In case there's anything you didn't mention, what else can we look forward to with the Cliff Jones classical pianist? What else can we look forward to? So next thing you can look forward to me is continuing to build my school community. You're gonna also see me promoting my album that I just released called The Meditations Part 1, The War Within. You're gonna see me doing like a lot of different content with that, all powered through my COPET method. The other day I shared one of the intro track into my album and people loved it. Really shows the whole entire COPET method. And besides that, future concerts, future recitals that I'm be working on. I'll be performing music from the Meditations album in a future concert. I don't know exactly when. And besides that, continuing to get better with my content, going on YouTube now to create videos and things like that along the lines. And yeah, just doing a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions for your boy? If not, then I'm gonna head out. No problem. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm going to share this whole entire live through my school community. If you're not part of Cliff Keys to Mastery, you need to join because there's so much game, so much piano stuff that I'm giving, so much piano information, and not your typical stuff. But thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I love y'all. Take care. You know music theory. Stupid. Hilarious. All right. Out of here. Thank you for tuning in.